Welcome to Not What I Thought. I'm Erika.
I'm Yolanda.
And I'm Becca. We're therapists, entrepreneurs, and perfectly imperfect humans.
We first met during a business owner retreat where we became fast friends because we're not afraid to be real and ask the hard questions about life. What we thought it would be like, how messy it actually is, and the courage it takes to create the life we want.
We continue to build our friendship and personal growth through our own retreats. We find the deepest connection in sharing our struggles and finding what we have in common rather than what divides us.
We're breaking down hard topics on our podcast and together have conversations about what it takes to find real talk, real support, and real rest for professional women. We're glad you're here. Join us on your favorite podcast platform.
Okay, friends, I'm going to take a big breath. My topic for today is around my recovery. So let me unpack that a little bit. Several years ago, I took a sabbatical, and my sabbatical was around burnout, some pretty significant burnout. And the two of you were right there with me, alongside me during that journey, which I really appreciate. And during my time kind of away on sabbatical, out of my normal routine, away from work, I realized that a big part of my burnout is stems from my quote unquote addiction. But it's interesting because I think a lot of times when we hear the words addiction, we automatically think substances, that kind of thing, alcohol, drugs, um, you know, and what started to become clear was my addiction was more around overworking and perfectionism and overfunctioning. And the problem with these are that they are much more socially acceptable. And so my recovery has been somewhat complicated as I try to figure out how to navigate through these dynamics that I have a different relationship with, but still very impactful on me.
So when you talk about overworking and perfectionism and overfunctioning, I think, yeah, there may be folks who say, why is that a problem, right? Like
Mhm.
hard work is good
Mhm.
and we do want
Mhm.
to do everything to our very best
Yeah.
and you know, pick up the slack, do everything that you can. That's what's expected of you. So can you say a little bit about how, because you talked about this as like a burnout and
Yeah.
needing to recover. So like how were those things presenting problems for you?
How do they still present problems for me?
Okay.
Yeah, I think, and I just want to pause and say that what you just said was in many ways how the addiction kind of got embedded.
Mhm.
So I just want to put a highlight on that.
Yeah.
My definition of addiction, or what I'm coming to understand for myself, is that addiction is a habitual, self-defeating behavior. So hard work in and of itself is not a self-defeating behavior. The way that I use filling my schedule, um, when I fear, that would be a Freudian slip, but not so much. When I have intense feelings of uncertainty and fear, is the habitual self-defeating behavior. And so it's like, it's again habitual. It happens without me thinking consciously. And it's self-defeating because for me, these things impact one, my physical, emotional, mental health, and also my relationships with the people around me. When I'm too exhausted or irritated or what have you, from the overworking piece, when I'm not there for important things. Did that answer your question?
So you have some kind of fear that comes up. And the
Mm-hmm.
way that you deal with that is by, well, let me just keep working harder. I'm going to fill my schedule. I'm going to just like do.
Mm-hmm.
And then that trickles down to you're not present for your family, you're
Mm-hmm.
irritable, you're tired, you're all these other
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the self-defeating part is this thing that I'm trying to do to help or to manage my fear is actually causing me all these other problems.
Causing a lot of problems. Yeah. And I think it took me a long time to recognize that. Isn't that also a definition of addiction? And and to acknowledge that it's a problem. Because to your point, Becca, I mean, aren't we supposed to work hard and, all of those things? So during my sabbatical, I got into, I feel like I made some progress on some of these things during that period of time. But I continue to notice, it's like the layers of the onion, right? You start to address it here, and then you realize how much deeper it is. Um, and then also just coming to the understanding that these things do continue to impact me. Yes, albeit in a little bit different ways, but ongoing. And what does my relationship with work and these dynamics need to be so that I can stay in healthy relationship with them instead of it being habitual self-defeating behavior.
Because you
And
can't just not work.
you can't just not work, right? I can't be completely sober from working. I can't say that was my last drink. That was my last day of work.
Hmm.
So now I'm trying to find the routines and the practices and the recovery spaces, um, to continue to deepen this work for me. And I have been looking like, what does it look like? I mean, it's not AA. I don't drink. It's not NA. I don't do drugs, right? It's not as clear as that. Um, there's ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I will say from personal experience,
Uh-huh.
there are workaholic groups.
Okay.
I had a meltdown in grad school that led me into a workaholic group. So I can talk about that
That's
in a little
good
bit.
to know. Why didn't I not look up a workaholic?
There's 12-step books and everything.
I have been reading some 12-step books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's the community piece too, right? That I'm understanding more and more is so much a part of this.
So I have a question for maybe both of you. Um, in the professional work that I've done with different types of addictions, we will sometimes talk about where, like, getting honest about what the addiction does for you, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not all negative. If it was
Right.
all negative consequences, people wouldn't do it, right?
Right. For
So there
sure.
is some benefit that is coming from this behavior that you're engaging in. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
if you can talk about that. Like, what is the pull to keep
Yes.
overworking or overfunctioning? Like, what's the need that's being met by that?
And I think as we shift into this part of the conversation, this is also an acknowledgement of like, this also is deeper spiritual work for me
Mhm.
because the pull is when things feel uncertain, when things feel fearful, when I'm when I'm feeling shaky, adding more stuff to my schedule is something that I can control.
Mm.
Adding more stuff to my schedule is something that gives me a little bit, a false sense of a little bit more of a stable foundation until I take a step on it and it like
Yeah.
crumbles underneath my feet. Um, but yes, in that moment, I do it because for me, that seems like the answer to this feeling of shakiness, uncertainty, fear. And it's stuff in my professional life, it's stuff in my personal life, it's stuff in like the world around me as things like swirl and I'm like, "Oh my God, what is this world that we're living in?" If I don't keep a check on that, then it comes out sideways. And these things that I'm talking about.
Yes, 100% for me as well. And in that same way, serving as a avoidance mechanism, right? These are things I can't deal with. They're too overwhelming. They're too vulnerable. I can shut that
Mm-hmm.
down. Work is very task outcome based for me. So I know how to do that. I can do a task. I can do it well. I'm going to get it done on time. Um, yeah. Especially at the time where I was dealing with it the most, I was doing a retail job. So it was very, very, you go in, here's your duties for the day, you do them. And that allowed me to just stay in that realm that like, yeah, control one, right? But also there's not a ton of vulnerability there until
Mm-hmm.
somebody says something that pisses you off. And then and then you're like, oh, I got all kinds of stuff to unleash here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that keeps me from, for I said I'm reading some 12-step material. And I understand 12-step isn't for everyone, but it's a fit for me because because of my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of the fallout is that it keeps me ultimately from um trusting God, my higher power, God, right? And it brings to mind for me the Albert Einstein quote is this is Yolanda's paraphrase, but one of the most important questions we ask ourselves is, do we choose to believe that the universe is a friendly place? And when I shift to overworking and filling my schedule and all of these addictive behaviors, the answer to that question is clearly no.
Yeah.
And I notice myself getting emotional even like
Mhm.
saying that.
Mhm. Where if you do believe that the universe is a friendly place,
Mm-hmm.
then perhaps there is more trust. There's less of a need to feel like you personally have to be in control of it and trying to shift.
Shoulder it all. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I can see too how there's a way, especially in a work context, that like um if things feel uncertain somewhere, right? Maybe there's because we're just coming off of in the recording anyway, we're just coming off of our conversation about entrepreneurship. I
Yeah.
think maybe there's shifts happening in our field that
Right.
we're not sure how to manage. I don't know what to do about that. So I'm just going to fill my schedule with more clients.
Right.
I'm just going to kind of put my head down in this direction and keep doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that may temporarily feel like it's a fix, but then we don't actually have time, bandwidth, capacity available to look at the reality of like, hey, there maybe are things shifting in my field and I'm going to need to pivot. I need to learn new skills. I need to, do something different. We don't have time for that, which
Right.
may actually make a long-term difference because we're so
Consumed.
down in
Yeah.
in the busy schedule and the doing all of the things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I think as
I was going to say could very easily be something like I don't have time to go. I really want to make a career shift. I don't have time to go back to school because blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to ignore that and keep putting it off and just pick up more shifts at my retail job or,
yeah.
whatever that
Yeah.
looks. Yeah.
I mean, I have noticed a draw, even, the three of us are therapists, and a lot of times just kind of the flow of the summer is that things slow down a little bit, right? Things get a little bit more quiet. That's just how summer goes.
Mhm.
Um, and if I allow myself to, and as a group practice owner, it's like, oh, shifts are happening on other people's schedule, but I know I can add more to my calendar, and I know I can add another intensive or this or that or like what have you to make quote unquote make up for,
Mhm.
right? And that's an example of how it has looked in the past, how it can look if I'm not like on it.
I'm wondering if either of you would be able to talk about what that lead up to burnout looked and felt like before you had the realization of like, oh, this behavior is causing me problems, or I need to go look at recovery or change something. Like, yeah, what was that like?
Probably multiple iterations of what it's a version of what I just described, whether it's, oh, numbers are down at the practice, or um, wow, there's some strain in my relationship with my husband, or something's happening with the kids that feels a little uncertain, or the world at large, you know. Um, I know how to handle this. I can open up my schedule more. I can put more things on my calendar. And it's always with the thought of like, oh, it's just for this period of time.
I think my question is more around like, what did the burnout feel like?
Mm.
What was that kind of, oh no, things have to change. I can't keep doing this.
A lot of exhaustion. Very much that I can't keep doing this. Um, at some point, I recognized that I kept putting myself back into that position. Somehow I was like, I keep doing this. I keep doing this thing where I'm like, oh, it's just going to be for this period of time.
Mhm.
I was not, I can be not a nice person. I know this is shocking to all of us since I'm such a delight. But when I start looking at people as, why can't you just get on board and make things easier for me? I am bad off when I get there. Does that answer a little bit more of your question?
Yeah. I wonder what it was like for you, Erica.
Yeah, mine was more of a rock bottom
Mm,
situation, as is the Erica way. I was just going to keep going until life was literally like, no, girl, you're going to stop. Um, so I was in my last semester of graduate school. My grandfather was dying from lung cancer. Um, I was working like, I had just gotten a promotion, so I was working like 45 plus hours
mm,
in retail, in like, you know how retail is usually like a part-time sort of thing. It's, I don't know, it's
mm,
20 hours here or there or whatever, right? I got promoted to a full-time sales lead, and so that came with like real benefits and PTO and holiday pay and all these things that felt very like official, right? Even though I was in grad school to do like another career, like that felt important to me. I was trying to figure out my infertility diagnosis. I knew I was not getting pregnant or having periods and didn't know why. And my husband was away for over a month traveling in Japan for work. And I can't even remember like the catalyst, the thing that happened the day that I just totally had a breakdown. I know I was at internship. Like I said, I can't remember all of these were all the like big pieces that led into something happened. and I just started crying and couldn't stop.
Mm.
I was so overwhelmed. I really didn't know like what's the next step to take here. And it was the community piece, I would say, that helped me. It was the other interns and my supervisor at the time that was there that basically sat with me and was just like, hey, what's going on? And I'm telling them all these factors. And they were like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like all this is going on under the surface. You always have everything together. You're showing up, you're doing your things, blah, blah, blah. Like would have had no clue. Um, and really, I think in that breakdown moment, it was like, okay, I've chosen to go to work over going to my grandparents' house on the weekend, right? To have dinner with them and just hang out and do puzzles or whatever it was that we would like normally be doing, right? I've missed family functions. I've missed going places with my husband. He's saying like he's at home alone every weekend, right? Or I'm at work in retail working 12 hours both days on the weekends. I'm struggling to like get all my schoolwork done, right? I'm trying to get all my hours in. It was a very just like big moment of hit in the face of like you're choosing this job over these other like relationships, I think is really what it was. And then just that overwhelming guilt that came in afterwards of like, wow, that is not more important than being with your grandpa who is dying and will die very soon. Like and sitting with that, like I actively chose that.
I think that's so relatable, that part of like these things that I used to be able to manage, I can't manage anymore. And I'm actually not able to show up for the things that really do matter because I've, made these other choices. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Erika.
Yeah.
I think for I feel very fortunate because for whatever reason, and maybe a combination of um some depression that I had worked through years and years and years prior, I remember letting my foot off the gas just enough to step onto the beach. And for like a quick weekend kind of thing that was gonna totally fix everything, right? It's just here are 2 days that I am going to rest and that'll take care of this whole thing. Um, and when I stepped foot on the beach, I had this very clear thought of, oh my God, I can breathe. And then my next thought was, oh my God, I didn't realize that I wasn't breathing. And then for whatever reason, my next thought was, it probably, I'm just now tying this together, probably something that happened when I was depressed and I was talking to a friend about it. And because my primary care doctor had suggested I go on antidepressants, and I was pushing back against that. And this friend said, that's okay, you're not in enough pain. And that was a wake-up call for me because I was like, oh, I'm in quite a bit of pain. So I think I'm connecting those two because in that moment on the beach, I thought, you can continue doing this and things are going to go bad. And do you really need to see how bad it's going to get?
Before you decide that I'm not going to.
Before you start doing things differently.
I know that none of us is meant to be just like productivity cogs in the capitalist machine. Like that's not what our life is for. And there is this way that stepping out of that, just work harder, just do more, it could have been better, right? Always do your best kind of thing. It's countercultural in a way. It's subversive, revolutionary.
Yeah.
And this really beautiful act of self-love that says, hey, I matter. My quality of life matters more than fixing the problem or earning more or checking off all of the things on the checklist of what's expected of me. Because the reality is, as women, we will always be disappointing someone. There is never a thing that you can do, a perfect way to set up your life that you are going to be meeting absolutely everybody's expectations of you. And so I wonder if you could speak to what that's been like on the self-love and self-worth front to shift these patterns.
Erika, you want to start with that?
That one is a hard one because I feel like I still struggle with that quite a bit. I think an easy place for me to step into is relationships, and then I can kind of like eventually get there that this is the thing I'm doing for me. But I think like getting the value out of showing up in relationships that are important to me, that can kind of settle my nervous system to say like, okay, it's okay. I don't need to be productive right now. I don't need to do 5 million things, right, for anybody, even though I guess that's still somewhere in my brain of like, I'm doing this for the other person. Like I'm showing up to be here for this other thing or event or person. But yeah, truthfully, I still struggle with that like idea that like I'm worth just kind of doing what I need to do, be that rest or quiet or movement or like all those other really good self-care things. So I'll probably have to process that after this podcast.
So I'm thinking back to the beginning of our conversation when you were talking, Becca, and I was like, yeah, where do we think all of this got embedded into my system? And how, I mean, growing up in unstable and uncertain childhood, I knew I could find part of my adaptation was finding a false sense of security in doing things, having people's praise, all of that piece. So part of it, like Erika was saying, is like truly opening to experiencing love from others that isn't solely based on what I'm doing for them or what I'm doing, period. Part of it has been a practice of self-compassion that I started years ago. And more recently, the deeper spiritual practice has been one of what's called centering prayer. And that is a meditative practice, a contemplative practice of sitting and opening myself to the presence and love of God and to God's action within. And so I sit and I consent. I am loved by something that is much bigger than me. And recognizing it and consenting to its presence. And whatever the action is that helps me to build trust in it and trust in myself and value and worth in myself, because I see my value and worth reflected in that presence. So that's a solid come back to. That's my morning practice.
To just take that in a non-religious way.
Yeah.
I have a friend who talks about, but very similar, who talks about if I am not feeling love, then it means that I am blocking it in some way. Because this is just what humans do and how we have survived and how we work as a species, is that we are interdependent with each other and we love and care for each other. And so there is this trust in humanity that may not be in an individual person, right? But if I am not feeling loved by the people around me, it is likely because I am blocking that in some way and not because they don't love me or because I am deficient in some way. And I just love the way of looking at that. It's like, because it could be between me and one person that legitimately that one person doesn't love me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I think about humanity as a whole,
Right.
like, yeah, this is what we do for each other. It is what is in us.
Right.
And when you start looking for it, it's all around
Right.
in the way that we show up for each other, the way we care for each other, the way that when there's some kind of a disaster, like other
Yeah.
humans like are rushing, falling over each other to help and figure out like wildfires in LA or what's coming up right now. It's like
Yeah.
places were overwhelmed with donations and food
Yeah.
and pet. How can we care for your pets and like all of the things
Mm.
like humanity. That's what humanity is, right? Is there is love. And so there's this
Yeah.
this openness, right? That's like, oh, if I can't see it, it's because there's some reason in me that I'm blocking it.
Right.
Which I
And
think is very
blocking,
similar, but wanted to give that alternate
no,
way.
yeah, I appreciate that. And yes, taking it out of the religious, but it's still a spiritual. And we can, I mean, I'm
Yes,
talking
spiritual.
a
Yes.
broader spirituality
Yeah.
outside of the context of religion, because humanity is believing in something bigger than
Yep.
ourselves.
Yep. Even if
Yeah.
that something bigger is us,
Yeah. The
the
collective
collective.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. My husband and I are rewatching The Good Place, and I feel like it just ties into to all of this.
Great.
And in how you were just describing something your friend said, you said, what do we owe to each other kind of idea, right? Which is a book that they talk about in that show, and just this idea of yeah, there are bad things like that happen,
Mhm.
right? We do bad things. Are we ultimately all attempting to do good for everybody? And like at the end of
Mhm.
the day, yeah, most people are, right? The vast
Mhm.
majority of people, we're all trying to do good things,
Mhm.
not with the intention of going to the good place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on what recovery from overworking looks like or feels like?
Well, now I'm going to look into Workaholics Anonymous. Sometimes it's just like, well, duh. Okay. Um, and again, I am seeing this as just the next step of my journey of being human. Um, it's one that I'm finding to be the most important and the one that will be ongoing, because that's what recovery is. Yeah. So whatever it looks like.
I'm taking some notes for myself, things I need to think about later today.
Mm,
Because I think for me, when I finally realize I'm struggling with something, I do a big shift, like a big radical shift right at the beginning.
mhm,
So the next day after I had that breakdown, I went in and I went down to part-time hours, gave up all my
mhm,
benefits, cried during that whole process. It was fun, y'all.
mhm, mhm,
Um, like that was the start, and it helped a lot, right? But I think and this is for other issues in my life too. Like I make a big radical change, and that is like the jump start. But then all these other pieces, they're so subtle and they're so everyday. They're back to the onion, right? They're
mhm,
like one layer of onion at a time. And do you ever really get to the core?
mhm. Yeah.
Haven't gotten there yet.
How about you, Becca? What's on your heart?
Hmm. For recovery or like
Just in
in
general.
okay. Um, the self-worth piece is really just sitting with me and
Mm,
like we aren't our lives aren't just about productivity.
mhm,
Um, but the things that really make our life worth living are the sort of anti-overwork things, right?
mhm,
It's play, it's fun, it's love, it's leisure. It's also work with purpose. It's not that there isn't a place, but like I think
mhm,
that is the way to recovery is allowing ourselves to be more full,
mhm.
messy human beings.
Thanks for holding me through this, y'all.
Yeah.
You always do. Love you.
Love you. We're so happy you've been listening to the podcast, and we want to make sure you love it. If there's a topic you want us to address, you have a question about one of our episodes, or you want to share your own Not What I Thought experience, we want to hear from you. Record a voice memo or email us at hello@notwhatithought.com.
Really, take out your phone now, record, send us a message.